expect nothing in return. Find out what I'm talking about coming up next. So why is it we do the things that we do? Why do we make the decisions we make, or make the choices, or pursue certain goals or lines of behavior? I think very often, maybe too often, we're doing those things because we're trying to get something tangible for our efforts. Now, you may, at this point, be saying, duh, what's this guy talking about? Of course. That's why I do these things. Isn't that why we all do these things? We're looking for something. We're looking to get something out of it. Yes, that's true. The question is that bad? And you're probably thinking, well, no, that would be ridiculous to think that's bad. But I would say there's some nuance to that we need to consider as we think about this idea of expecting nothing in return. And I would think one of the questions to ask yourself is, am I doing this thing? Am I pursuing this thing looking for external validation and reward? Or am I doing this thing, am I pursuing this goal for internally motivated, intrinsically motivated reasons? And so I think that's an important distinction. So, maybe the label bad is not appropriate, but I do think that there is a difference between chasing external validation versus doing things that are kind of intrinsically motivated. And the truth is, either way, that we can hope for an outcome, but we don't have any control over the outcome. We only have control over the choices that we make, the effort that we put in. We can hope for the outcome, but we don't control the outcome. So if you expect nothing in return, the understanding that you don't control the outcome, I think you're in a better situation. And I think this is particularly true when what you're doing, if what you're doing is seeking external validation or reward, because that is far more difficult to control. The best we can do is control the probability of an outcome occurring through our concerted efforts and our focused effort. Now, I think ideally we are making choices to do things because they are authentically aligned with our values and our intrinsic motivations. And I think when we do that, we focus on what we have control over. We avoid disappointment because we're no longer worried about chasing an outcome. We're focused on what we have control over, and we're being driven through internally motivated, value-aligned desires or choices. And not only do we avoid disappointment, but we also develop a deep satisfaction and sense of fulfillment with our choices and our decisions that is untethered from the inherent unpredictability of external validation or external responses. So how do we start to get to that place of expecting nothing in return, being focused on value-aligned, internally motivated behaviors, focused on what we have control over versus all of these things that we don't have control over, such as the outcome? I think one of the first places to start is where we started today, and that's talking about the motivations. Beginning to reflect on your motivation. Am I being motivated to do this thing because I'm looking for something outside of myself? Am I looking for some validation or reward that exists beyond me? Or am I doing this thing? Am I chasing this thing because it's important to me? It's internally aligned with my values, and I feel this sense of intrinsic motivation to do this. I don't need someone out there giving me something in return for my efforts to motivate my behavior. And so if you can start to separate those layers, really critically reflect on why you're doing what you're doing, what's motivating you, that's a really good place to start. The other is to celebrate effort rather than outcome. To focus on, hey, I did what I expected of myself to do. And that's awesome. I can reward that. I can celebrate that. I'm not necessarily at the place that I want to be ultimately, but today I engaged in effort that moves me in the right direction and increases the probability, not the eventuality of an outcome, but increases the probability of an outcome that I'm looking for. So I'm going to celebrate the effort that I engaged in today. And then the kind of the final piece of that is to kind of let go of the expectation of what you think is supposed to happen. Because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is what's going to happen. But if you're focused on kind of value-aligned, intrinsically motivated behavior paths, decisions and choices and goals, and you're celebrating the effort, then you don't have to worry about the expectations, because good things are going to come from that. And you can be free of the burden of looking for specific outcomes, of looking for something in return. The effort becomes its own reward, and then the outcomes arrive as they arrive as a kind of a birthing of your efforts. And you have this deep satisfaction because you know what you're doing is coming from inside of you, it's motivated by you, it's tied to your values and your ethics and your sense of integrity. So let go of expectations. Expect nothing in return. And you'll be much more at peace, more value aligned, and I think making far more progress with a much higher level of satisfaction in life. If you found today's content helpful, please take a moment, hit that like button, share it with anyone else you think might find it helpful. If you haven't subscribed and don't mind, please just hit that subscribe button before you go anywhere. And until we talk again, please be well.